issue in the UK is that 10 million people have never used the internet. A big number in itself, but perhaps more shocking when you look at how that breaks down, and particularly the heavy weighting towards people who are already socially and economically disadvantaged. And I believe that matters very deeply, because unless we take real steps to solve it, that gap's not going to go away. I think I've got a number of challenges, but I'm an optimist and an entrepreneur, so I'm just going to continue and believe that we can overcome them. I think that the first challenge is around the people who are not online and why they're not online. And to me, one of the most fundamental things is just no understanding and motivation and inspiration around what's in it for them. I scream at every time I see an advert for broadband here, because it always says the same thing: free broadband, cheap broadband. If you don't have broadband, what the hell does that mean? It doesn't tell you about the benefits of being online. And I think a huge amount of work needs to be done inspiring people about whatever the individual benefit might be. There's then a whole piece of work, I think, in the wider world about raising this as an issue. I spend 90% of my time boring my friends, my family, anyone that will listen, because it's just not an issue that people are aware of. If you're using the internet, you don't think so many people can't, and if you're not using it, then you don't know what all the fuss is about. And then the final bit, which is probably the trickiest bit, but maybe the most powerful, is around government. I'm delighted that 2 Prime Ministers have put digitisation at the heart of their agenda. I don't think that the words digital inclusion are seen as a kind of rarefied and niche problem anymore. I think they're really seen as unlocking something that could be very powerful for the country. One of the first things we did was some economic work around really sizing this and putting some numbers. If I'm an individual, I will save £560 if I'm online. That's a fact. And even the poorest families save £270. So there's a very tangible reason why we should get everybody online. Then there's the UK PLC number, particularly the government. The budget in the UK was very severe, 25% cuts across Whitehall. The macroeconomic climate is tough. They will never manage to take that cost out unless they can communicate electronically with their heaviest users. Those heaviest users are also the people who are offline, so you can see very quickly why this is an absolutely core issue for us right now. We worked out that if one interaction a month was moved online by the people who are currently offline, so either from paper or from phone, then the government will be saving upwards of £1 billion a year. And that's just one interaction. So you start to get some very big numbers very quickly. But that's just the kind of efficiency saving. Beyond that, I think the opportunities for enterprise and the opportunities to see government becoming the enabler for a much more creative and flourishing economy by encouraging more and more people to take advantage of all of the ways that the internet allows communities to flourish, allows businesses to flourish, and that's the other enormously big prize. Certainly my own journey started with going to meet people in projects all over the country, and that's been what's been sitting in my brain the whole way through this. There's one guy called Darryl who I met in Leeds, a town in the north of England, and he looked at me and he just said, "I'd be dead without the internet." And I said, "Well, that's interesting, why do you say that?" And he told me about how he'd been very heavy drug addict. He'd been found smacked out in a bus shelter. They'd taken him to a hostel. He'd taken a week to detox. He'd then noticed that in the bus shelter there was an advert for going to learn how to do music online, and he'd started going to a centre and he'd learned how to use the web, and he'd started doing DJing, and he'd started building music apps, and now he was selling small amounts of music online, pocket money, but for him a big deal. He was re-engaged with society. He was now training other kids in how to use music tools and how to sell stuff. So, on every level, he had engaged and taken control of his life again. I think we've had some success in that we've moved the agenda a bit more to the heart of government. I'm absolutely delighted with the partnership programme. Microsoft has been one of the leading people in the UK to help us achieve a really fantastic campaign with our Race Online 2012 mission, and I'm happy that that's beginning to get some momentum. But I wake up late at night and often think, but have we actually got anyone else on the internet? Until I can see that coming through in numbers, I won't feel happy.